Here. We're going to start the meeting in a minute, but just a couple of housekeeping things. Please keep your phones muted unless you're speaking. As Geraldine said, it's *6 to mute your phone and *6 your phone. If everybody starts talking, we will mute everybody from the main room because we need to be able to hear the presenters and the commissioners clearly. So please keep your phones muted. If you unmute them to speak, please put them back on mute when you're finished. There are over 30 people on this call. We do have open lines for the public, but we are not taking public comment today. We ask that you just listen if you are from the public. Additionally, the chair, after each item is presented or discussed, will go to each commissioner individually so that we're not talking over the top of each other. He will just ask each one of you until we finish the item. He'll ask you one at a time to speak, or if you have any questions. And then he will go around again until we don't have any more questions or comments. We have only a few items. We do have to do the canvassing board as well, but hopefully the meeting will go rather quickly. We will have presenters. There are only a couple of us in the conference room. The presenters will come in one at a time. So there will be a delay between presentations and between agenda items while one person leaves the room and we clean the area for another person to come in. With that, I think that, Mr. Chair, we could start the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Manager Miller, for the instructions that you provided. And I just want to say hello to everybody that's out there and thank you for being here with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and call our special BCC and County Canvassing Board meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, the 24th, 2020. And for the official time,
it is 10:13.
10:13 is the official time. Okay, so can I get a roll call?
Yeah, Chairwoman Ball.
Here.
Commissioner Hanson.
Present.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Here.
Commissioner Garcia.
Here via phone.
Commissioner Moreno. Commissioner Moreno. Are we still online?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, we are. Commissioner
Okay,
Moreno, can you press *6 if your phone has been muted?
Chair, we'll get a roll call with him later. We can continue. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a quorum. We'll check back with Commissioner Moreno and see if he chimes in a little bit later. So for our next item, we're going to go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
We don't have anybody leading,
okay.
But if we could just stand up.
I'll lead. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we're going to go on to the state pledge now, and I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
And then for the moment of reflection, we have Olivia, who's going to do a poem for us.
Let us take a moment to focus on the work ahead of us today, being ever mindful of the stress and health of our communities during this pandemic. May we continue to do what is best for our most vulnerable populations, our elderly, our youth, and the sick. May we cast a net of protection, ease, and strength over the people, and remember that now, in time of isolation, that our families, leaders, and communities shall endure. We shall overcome. Let us take a moment to honor the wisdom of our healers, doctors, and traditional medicine. Recognize the courage of our staff, service, and health providers across the state and across the globe. We look to our former leadership who also made the best decisions possible to protect their communities in time of fear, illness, and economic uncertainty. We learn from them. Let us meditate during this time of solitude about the changes we can make to be better prepared and build healthy and service systems that can thrive even in times of difficulty. May we take a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And great job in way to enlighten the situation that we're in today, and just giving everybody hope and remembering that we united that we will overcome. So thank you so much for that poem and that moment of reflection. So next we're going to go on to item number F, and this is the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda or requests? If not, I take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I have no changes to the agenda.
Okay, so
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Hanson. I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy, seconding motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Hanson and a second from Commissioner Garcia. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. And it appears that we have a 5-0 vote. So we have Commissioner Moreno has joined the meeting. Is that correct? Commissioner, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we're going to move on to item number 2, and this is a county canvassing board meeting. I'm gonna ask for a motion to temporarily release the Board of County Commissioners and reconvene as the county canvassing board. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy, second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Hanson, is that correct? And a second from Commissioner Garcia, did I get that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion from Commissioner Hanson and a second from Commissioner Garcia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Okay, so we are reconvened as the canvassing board. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair Roy Ball. Chair Roy Ball,
Here.
Commissioner Hanson,
Present, yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno,
Yes.
all in attendance. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you. Yes, Manager Miller?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hamilton, can you make sure you speak in closer to your, into your phone or louder? We're having a little difficulty hearing you.
Yes, can you hear me now?
That's better, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to item number C. And this is the approval of the March 3rd, 2020 City of Espanola Municipal Election Canvass. This is pursuant to Section 1-13-13A NMSA 1978 Bureau of Elections. And for this item, I believe we have Mr. Steve Frescus.
Chair Roy Ball, members of the commission, this is Steve Prescott, Chief Deputy of the Bureau of Elections. We are here to present, City Clerk Melissa Velasquez and myself are here to present the results of the Espanola City election of March 3rd. So I will defer to the City Clerk Velasquez if she's on the line.
Good morning, members of the Santa Fe County Commission. My name is Melissa Velasquez, City Clerk for City of Espanola. My duty was to facilitate the 2020 City of Espanola Municipal Officer election. I am here to present a canvass to you today, and I stand for any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Or actually, let me call you guys one at a time. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hansen. I believe that's who I was hearing first.
thank you very much. I would like to know was your elections not moved to the 2019 cycle with the new election law?
Good morning, Chair Roy Ball, members of the Commission. Back in November of 2019, the City of Espanola governing body opted out of the Local Election Act. Therefore, we held our independent municipal officer elections.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hansen, and thank you, Ms. Velasquez, for the insight. I'm going to go to every single commissioner and just make sure that I ask if they have any additional questions. So I'm going to go to Commissioner Garcia next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions that I have is, was there any problems with the election that we know of, that we should know of? And then secondly, is this for the entire city of Santa Fe, or is this for certain precincts within Santa Fe County? Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Roy Ball and members of the Commission. The City of Espanola is the only municipality within the state of New Mexico that crosses county borders. Therefore, we had votes casted within Rio Arriba County and Santa Fe County, but exclusively within the City of Espanola.
Okay, and
Thank you.
okay, sorry about that,
Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia.
No problem. Thank you. Was there any flaws or anything that we should be worried about during this election? And also, these are just for the precincts that are within Santa Fe County, correct?
Correct. Chair Roy Ball, members of the Commission, we did not have any issues throughout the election.
And thank you once again. These are just for the precincts within Santa Fe County, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, was there any other other questions, Commissioner Garcia? Commissioner Garcia, was that the extent of your question, sir? Okay, I'm going to go on to. Okay.
Mr. Chair, yes, those. I have no more questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next, I'm going to go to Commissioner Hamilton. Did you have any questions relevant to this election, Commissioner Hamilton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I don't have any further questions.
Okay. Next, we're going to go to Commissioner Moreno. Commissioner Moreno, did you have any questions relative to this election?
No, I don't have any questions, but for the future, I would like to see if that we can regularize this issue that it's confusing for people, and I would like to see some action on that part. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, commissioners. I just want to express my gratitude for the hard work that has been put into this, to staff, Thank you very much. So with that being said, I'd like to, I'll entertain a motion to approve or a motion.
So moved.
Commissioner,
Chair Roybal, before we finish, this is Geraldine Salazar. Madam City Clerk, did you provide the numbers of this election within Santa Fe County to the board or to Steve?
Madam County Clerk Salazar, I did.
Okay, so everyone has the numbers. So if the Board of County Commissioners wants to review those numbers, they can. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that point up, Madam Clerk. We appreciate that. I did hear a motion from Commissioner Moreno, but I also think I heard a question from Commissioner Hansen.
Mr. Chair, I was just going to move to approve, but if there's been a motion, I will second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Moreno and a second from Commissioner Hansen. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I believe I heard an aye from myself, from Commissioner Hansen, Commissioner Moreno. And so if all those opposed signify with the same sign. Okay, since we didn't have any in opposition, I want to go to individually to Commissioner Garcia. Did you vote in the affirmative or against?
Mr. Chair, I voted in the affirmative. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Hamilton, I'll ask you the same question.
Yes, I voted in the affirmative.
Okay, thank you. I think we probably all spoke at the same time, so I didn't quite hear them all. So thank you for clarifying. So we're going to go ahead and go on to the next item, which is a motion for adjournment. So I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Commissioner Roybal.
Yes. Is that Mr. Frescus?
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. That's
Okay.
fine, sir.
Commissioner,
Go ahead, Commissioner Hampton. I'll speak after you're done.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn the canvassing board meeting and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. And who provided the second? Is that Commissioner Moreno? Or Commissioner Moreno? Okay.
Yes.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Hansen and a second from Commissioner Moreno. Under discussion, I'm going to go back to Mr. Frescus. I believe he had a comment or question for us.
Yes, sir, Chair Roybal. If any of the members that are present, if they could sign the certification that was provided in the packets. If not, I can take a paper copy up to you. We will need that for the State Canvassing Board this afternoon.
Okay, I believe I'm the only one that's here right now. Hold on one moment.
Mr. Chair, it's Greg Schaefer speaking. We'll have a copy brought up to you to sign, and we will coordinate with other commissioners to get their electronic or original signatures before the deadline for the Secretary of State.
Okay, I don't know if you could hear the direction from our county attorney, but I am here today, and I think everybody else is participating telephonically. They will work out the details on getting the signatures from the rest of the commissioners, but I will sign it today.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
I will take you up a blank copy.
Okay. And the other thing is that we did have a motion and a second, so we need a roll call vote. So if we can have our esteemed clerk do a roll call vote for us, please, Geraldine.
Okay. Chair Roybal,
Yes.
Commissioner Hansen,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you all. This wasn't necessary to do it this way, but it was very efficient. Thank you very much, Chair Roybal.
Yes, thank you, Geraldine. And I think for the rest of the items that we will have on the schedule, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a roll call vote. It's a little easier for us to make sure that we are getting all the votes in, and it's a little clearer for our choreographer. So thank you very much. Okay, so we did have a motion and a second and a vote to come out of, to adjourn the canvassing board and come back to our regular Board of County Commissioners. So our next item is item number 3, and this is an action item and presentation for the COVID-19 epidemic that we are all facing right now. And it's a resolution declaring Santa Fe County to be an emergency area as a result of COVID-19, authorizing, subject to any required notification to and negotiations with unions and the county manager to modify county human resources handbook and provisions of the collective bargaining agreements and establish emergency policies in response to the COVID-19 emergency, ratifying actions previously taken and authorizing other appropriate measures. Okay, and from the, I'm going to go to our county manager.
Mr. Chair, so we have this resolution in front of you today, and what we're requesting is that Santa Fe County is an emergency area due to the COVID-19 public health emergency and the economic emergency being caused by the virus and the response to it. This emergency has required and will continue to require urgent changes to the way the county does business and manages its human resources. Among other things, the subject resolution would declare an emergency to exist due to COVID-19, and that would be an emergency for Santa Fe County, which would remove any doubt about the ability of the county to request and accept emergency resources from the state, federal government, or any other sources. It also would ratify, to the extent necessary, any actions that have been previously taken in response to the COVID-19 emergency. It would authorize county manager or my designee to modify the county human resources handbook and collective bargaining agreements and create new emergency policies in response to the COVID-19 emergency, subject to any required notification and or negotiations with the unions representing bargaining units within the county. I would like to make a point on this. The unions have been incredibly responsive and good to work with as we have worked through all of our changes to working conditions for employees, work from home, altered schedules. They've worked with us lockstep and been very good to work with. So this would just allow that to continue. It would authorize the county manager to expend any available funds for COVID-19 emergency purposes, regardless of the office, department, or division in which the funds are budgeted and subject to any restrictions on the use of those funds. It would increase the county manager's signature authority with regard to COVID-19 emergency expenditures from $250,000 to $500,000. It would authorize county manager to implement a variety of austerity measures subject to any required notification to and or negotiations with unions representing bargaining units within the county. Such measures could include, but are not limited to, hiring freezes and limiting expenditures. To note, as you know, we've already suspended any travel, so we have no travel expenditures at this time. To the extent the existing ordinances, resolutions, or policies grant the county manager discretionary authority to extend due dates for money owed to the county, waive penalties and interest for late payments, or delay consequences of delinquent payments, this resolution would direct the county manager to consider doing so in whole or in part when it is determined to be permissible and advisable to do so, also taking into consideration the benefit to the public, the impact to the county, the ease of administration of any of those type of changes, whether the measure can be implemented in an equitable way, and any other appropriate factors. To the extent that existing ordinances, resolutions, or policies do not currently grant such discretionary authority to the county manager, the resolution directs the county manager and county attorney to prepare an emergency ordinance for consideration by the BCC on next Tuesday, March 31st, regular BCC meeting that would provide such discretionary authority. Just to give the board some background on actions previously taken. The county, in consultation with the affected unions, has taken a variety of steps in response to the emergency, including temporarily suspending enforcement of rules requiring annual and compensatory leave to be requested a minimum amount of time in advance. For example, annual leave requires a 1 day advance for a full day of annual leave. That has been suspended so as to allow such leave to be used to meet a variety of COVID-19 related needs. Loosening rules governing sick leave usage so as to allow it to be used for employees quarantines and to care for immediately family members who were quarantined. Additionally, allowed to use that relative to school closure and needing to be home with children. Establishing an emergency alternate work arrangement policy, which allows for a variety of alternate work arrangements, including teleworking. And pursuant to this policy, large numbers of county staff are currently teleworking this week. Establishing a 4-day a week work week, 10 hours a day, schedules to limit the number of essential employees on site at one time. Limiting the hours during which various buildings, offices, departments, and divisions are open to the public, and requiring some essential services to be provided without direct human interaction, for example, voter registration. So background to actions that may prove necessary. We are on the verge of a significant economic and budgetary downturn. First, tourism in Santa Fe is expected to practically be non-existent during the COVID-19 emergency. Second, the response to COVID-19 has been largely shut down. Been to largely shut down segments of the economy. As you know, the governor just had all retail shut down in addition to restaurants and bars. Both of these facts are anticipated to have a material negative impact on various county revenue streams, most notably our gross receipts taxes. This resolution would authorize the county manager to take a variety of actions to prepare for and respond to this anticipated revenue downturn. In addition, the public health restrictions imposed by the state change weekly, requiring that the county be able to quickly react. The resolution would provide county management authority to do what it takes to continue navigating these uncharted waters, working closely with affected unions and elected officials as we do so. With that, I stand for questions and ultimately request approval of this resolution.
Okay. Chair?
Yes. Is this Commissioner Hanson?
No, this is Commissioner Hamilton.
Oh, Commissioner Hamilton, go ahead. I'll start with you for comments.
I'm sorry, you're going to go around and ask for questions.
Well, I can start with you. No worries.
I don't have any particular questions, but I was going to move to approve this.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second for discussion, Mr. Chair, it's Rudy.
Okay, so we got Commissioner Garcia and any other commissioners that have any discussion items. We'll take them at that point. So Commissioner Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you, Santa Fe County, for being on the forefront for this. It's actually, who would have ever thought we'd be at this time in our entire life or in the entire world as into what we're dealing with. But thank you for Catherine Miller, the staff, the unions, all the employees, every single employee, and the general public for actually bearing with Santa Fe County during this time that is a day-to-day item. But I just wanted to thank everybody for being out there. A couple of things I have questions on is the next item is the budgetary downturn, but I'll wait till that comes up. And also a question is, Manager Miller, can you tell me what type of an emergency that we would have over $250,000 up to $500,000, or what type of emergencies can these funds be utilized for?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, the only thing that I could think is if we had a need to contract for some emergency services, possibly with our detention facility, or with our first responders. I honestly can't think of one off of the top of my head, but those were the areas that if there were a need to contract potentially for a place to isolate inmates separate from the jail. Those were the type of things we were thinking. For instance, in the state of Washington, I believe one county bought a hotel for actually isolating individuals who had been diagnosed or were waiting for a response. I don't anticipate anything like purchasing a hotel, but it would be if we needed to contract in any way with a local hotel for something like that, that type of thing, and anything along that line would certainly be brought back to the Board of County Commissioners for ratification.
Thank you, Manager Miller. Just once again, thank you for all the employees, the general public, the news media that are out there. I know we're live on the radio, and everybody that's working together as a community, because this is where we need to be. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia, and I appreciate your comments. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you, Chair Roybal. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So just a couple questions. When you read the resolution, Catherine, first of all, thank you for everything. You have done an amazing job, and I am really honored to have you as our county manager. Thank you for all your hard work. And to all of our staff for all of their incredibly hard work. On the last line of the memo, the resolution would provide county management authority to do what it takes to continue navigating these uncharted waters, working closely with elected unions. And you added in the elected Board of County Commissioners. So is that in the resolution that I didn't see that you added in elected officials? Or
Madam Chair, let me pull up Mr. Chair, let me pull up the, I've got the memo up, not the resolution in front of me. Hold on. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson, the memo is, I read the memo to you. That specific sentence is not in the resolution. I'm looking for that's just what we're doing, is in any of these altered work arrangements, we have worked with each elected official that manages an office and with the respective unions to make sure that whatever we arrange works for the operation of that office, as well as is amenable to the union. So while I don't think those specific words are in the resolution itself, that is what we've been doing. That's why the memo states that, and why I mentioned that.
Okay. So I support this resolution. I think it is really important for us to be able to accept federal money. I think federal money and any state money is going to be necessary for what we're going through. I just wanted to share with my other commissioners that NACO has been requesting the county commissioners call our members of representatives to make sure that there are provisions in these packets for county and local government to get money directly from this $1 trillion package that is before Congress right now. I have done that. I think that is really important for us as a county to make sure that we have resources and that we're able to access whatever federal aid might be coming our way, or we could possibly accept at reasonable prices. I'm just hoping that we can all continue to work together and that the county manager can continue to inform the board of everything that is going on. And I really appreciate that Carmelina is sending out updates regularly. That is also really important, I'm sure, to all the staff. And I think, our constituents need to know what we are doing as a county to not only protect our staff and our workforce, but also to protect them. So with that, I will sign off for right now, but I might have another question. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hansen. Okay, I'm going to go to Commissioner Moreno. Did you have comments, Commissioner Moreno? Commissioner Moreno, I'm not sure if you might have your phone on mute. Okay, I'll come back to Commissioner Moreno. Commissioner Hamilton, did you have any other comments?
No. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I do want to chime in to thank everybody who, from the county manager and the county attorney and all, other elected officials and department heads who have been putting this incredible effort in. I do think we are, as I think you mentioned, Mr. Chair, have been out there on the forefront of what is a unique national experience, and one that we should anticipate we're going to have in the future again. And so this is setting groundwork for how we will respond in the future. But I just want to thank everybody and feel like we are doing a credible job and putting the efforts forward that we really need to put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Moreno, are you there, sir?
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy. I have a question as soon as Commissioner Moreno's done.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you. This is a question for Manager Miller. Do you, at this point, anticipate any services or buildings or facilities shut down?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, we currently have quite a few of our facilities and buildings shut down. Right now, we have the main administrative building only open from 10 to 12. And we have a drop box out front for people to drop items in. We do have some concerns about continuing to leave this building open because we've had quite a few people still coming in. And as you know, the main kiosk does not have a glass front, but we've separated as individuals come into the building. There is a line we ask people to stand behind and only come up to the counter one at a time. Additionally, we have staff helping distance people so they don't come into the lobby and crowd into the lobby. But we are reassessing whether that's actually working and works in accordance with the governor's order that came out yesterday. So this is one of the things this afternoon we'll take another look at to see if we can limit entrance into this building from the public even more. The Bochum building is closed to the public. Public Works is closed to the public, except people can come into the front of the building, but nobody can go beyond that, and staff can't come. And that is a area that's separated by glass. We also have a drop box in front of Public Works. The sheriffs have also limited access in their building in public safety. We don't have anyone coming in to visit individuals at the jail, so that, and the juvenile, so both of those have been closed off to the public. So we have very limited, and then also satellite offices. Well, as you know, we've closed all senior centers, community centers, and community facilities. We have 2 satellite offices open for 2 hours twice a week for transfer station permits, and we are going to assess also whether those need to be closed completely. So we have very little public access. What we have found is that there are still people who predominantly need to bring things into the clerk's office and see someone in the clerk's office. So that's the other area that I'm trying to work with the clerk, that if we completely shut this building down, would she be able to provide those essential services remote via mail and email?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Manager Miller. Some of the other questions I have is regarding utility bills. I know the restaurant industry has been hit really, really hard, so is there a way that we're actually going to postpone the utility bills if somebody does have a water bill? Also, in regards to the close down of the buildings, I'm totally for it if you need to close down some of the buildings and send staff home. Some of the other things that I appreciate as Commissioner Hanson, getting the word out to the general public. But as my aunt said yesterday, thank the employees that are actually serving meals to the elderly. So once again, those employees that must stay or need to stay, thank you for your help and getting the word out. Just keep in mind, I use this all the time. My grandmother does not have a cell phone, and my grandmother does not have internet, and so just keep in mind we have those individuals out there that don't have a computer basically or a cell phone. So getting the word out, like I've heard several ads through Kiswabe, like we're doing right now, or the radio is actually great as well. So just keep that in mind, and I'll yield the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, thank you for those comments. The one thing I did want to let you know, while we are still sending out our red tag notices for utilities, we are not shutting anybody off, and we are calling those individuals or businesses directly and trying to work with them on a payment plan. So people will still get their notices if they are delinquent on their bills, but we don't have a lot of them in this situation, but we are calling them and working with them to make sure that their utilities are not shut off.
Okay, thank you for those questions, Commissioner Garcia, and Manager Miller. Thank you for the information you provided relative to working with our constituents and our customers out there. It's something where we're all pulling together at this point, and I do want to take the time to thank all of our staff and everybody that has worked diligently to keep the residents of Santa Fe County safe. You've all worked tirelessly and have worked very hard, and we appreciate it. And I think all of my fellow commissioners have all attested to that today. We all have given you words of encouragement and gratitude, and it can't be reiterated enough because it is something that we really need to move forward with to keep our residents safe. I also want to commend the governor for actions that she has put in place. And we as residents need to remember that, in order for us to protect this great state and to keep our people safe, we need to comply with the orders that have been put in place. And just keep in mind that, this is something that we'll all get through together, and we need to take care of one of each other just like family does. So thank you all. With that, we do have a...
Chair Roy Ball, I'd like to make a statement as Geraldine Salazar.
Absolutely, Madam Clerk, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you all, Chair Roy Ball, Commissioners. I want you all to know that I am advocating for an all-mail ballot election for the primary and general. We may not be able to get the general, but we may be able to get the primary. I don't know yet. The county clerks will be on teleconference tomorrow discussing this further. And to have an all-mail ballot throughout the whole state would be wonderful. We have many poll workers that are senior citizens, and my staff, we're concerned about our staff also. So all-mail ballot elections for this election cycle would be ideal. I have grave concerns about the spread of COVID-19 through the election process. So any way that you can provide us advocacy and support in that area, we appreciate it. And we always appreciate your continued support. But understand that we're under a lot of pressure and stress right now because no matter what, we have to continue with the current election code, the laws that mandate that we conduct an election. So that's the mode we're in now. We've been preparing we always prepare 2 years, 1 year in advance for an election. So we're on mode for election no matter what. So please understand that I am advocating for all-mail ballots for these elections, and I would appreciate your support and advocacy also. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Madam Clerk, and we really do appreciate that, and absolutely, we will support you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hanson?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Hanson. I have a question for County Manager and possibly John Dupuy. Is how are we working with the mutual domestics on making sure that everyone has water, and has there been any outreach to them?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson, first, let me see if John Dupuy or Gary can answer that.
Mr. Chair, County Manager, Commissioner, what we have done is that we have
Can you
continued to
announce
have
your name? Is this Director Hidon?
This is Gary Hidon, Public
Okay.
Works Director.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
We have continued to have ongoing conversations with each one of the mutual domestics and keeping all of those communication channels open and dealing with everything on a case-by-case basis and giving as much support as possible, remembering that all of our support staff are still out in the field taking care of any emergency that might come up.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to hear that. One of the other things I'm hoping that we can encourage is that those people who can afford to pay, that they please do pay their bills, because that is the way we're going to be able to provide services throughout the county. And I know there are going to be people who are severely impacted, and there's going to be others that are not as severely impacted. And so I think we have to remember those things. And my last comment is that, this has been predicted by scientists for years that there would be a worldwide pandemic. Climate change and the heating of the planet has exacerbated this situation, and that we really need to remember that there is a cause of this, and that we can possibly turn back the cause and work for a more sustainable world. And this is not the first pandemic, and I'm afraid that in reality it might not be the last. But I think that if we all work together and make a concentrated effort to change our habits and take this as an opportunity to transform our community, we can help one another. And helping one another right now is really the most important thing we can do, and listening to the governor's orders, especially to stay at home, and as hard as that may be. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to make those comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. So we do have a motion by Commissioner Hamilton and a second by Commissioner Garcia to approve. So all those in favor signify by saying, or actually, let's go back and we're going to go through a roll call. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair Roy Ball,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, Commissioner Garcia.
Absolutely, yes. And was one little last comment. Manager Miller, can you, I'm sure you've done this, but can you reach out to our neighbors, the city of Santa Fe, so we can all coordinate together if you don't mind doing that? But yes, my vote is yes.
Commissioner Moreno, Commissioner Moreno, Commissioner Moreno, Chair Roy Ball, is that it?
We have 4-0 at this point. If Commissioner Moreno chimes in later, we'll see if he voted in the affirmative. He may be having some audio difficulties. For the record, Commissioner Garcia, can you please repeat the last request that you made? It wasn't very as clear as we'd like.
I heard what he said.
Oh.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, just so you know, I have been in regular communication with the city manager and the mayor coordinating our efforts. We have regularly scheduled phone calls between the superintendent of the schools, the mayor, the city manager, and the CEO of Christus Hospital, and updating each other and coordinating our responses.
Great, thank you. Dr. Garcia from the schools had informed me about that, but thank you, Manager Miller.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Garcia. Thank you for the information, Manager Miller.
Chair Roy Ball, before we go any further, for the record, the resolution that was just passed is Resolution 2020-24. Thank you.
2020.
And also, if you're upstairs, I will be walking up this resolution for your signature. Thank you.
Yes, I am upstairs, Clerk Salazar. Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 3B, and this is a Santa Fe County COVID-19 action plan.
Chair?
Oh, Commissioner Moreno, is that you?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
I've been back for a while.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. And in the last item, we would like to know, it was for the approval of the resolution declaring Santa Fe County to be an emergency area. Did you vote in the affirmative?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Moreno. We appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 3B, and this is the Santa Fe County COVID-19 action plan. From our task force for the COVID-19, we have Rachel O'Connor for this presentation.
Mr. Chair, before Rachel starts, I just want to commend all of the staff that have been working on this task force. Rachel and Martin have co-chaired the task force. Rachel has focused primarily on our plan relative to internal in the county, what every department has needed to do, and our internal and external communications. And Martin has focused on our preparedness for our EOC if that were to occur. I want to thank everybody who has worked so hard on this. Rachel, Patricia, IT has been incredible. You have never seen a team more dedicated to getting everybody together and prepared to work from home. While some people might have thought it wasn't fast enough, I can tell you they worked endlessly to make it happen. We were not set up to have hundreds of people work with their desktops at home, and they have done yeoman's work in this area, and I just can't point out how thankful I am to them, all the individuals who have participated in the task force, and Greg Schaefer, who has pushed this ball and made sure all of our documentation is done properly, as well as HR and IT. So before Rachel started, I just wanted to make sure that you knew how many people have been and how many different people have come together to work on this and have done an excellent job. So thank you.
Thank you, Manager Miller. So we're going to go ahead and go to Rachel O'Connor.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. Members of the Commission, Rachel O'Connor, Director of the Community Services Department. And I want to echo Catherine's, the County Manager's remarks in terms of thanks. This has been a tremendous push, really for the last month in preparing and executing the plans that we have for Santa Fe County. And everyone, really everyone has been an incredible team player, and it's been a remarkable effort to prepare and execute the Santa Fe County action plan. So I want to start with talking about what some of the early efforts were moving into the developments of the task force, and then speaking specifically about some of the department plans that we have pulled together, as well as a bit of a forecast about where we expect to be moving forward. And I want to say that the departments are also, I believe, on the line with us, as well as the elected officials, and they may have additional information to add along the way. I think it's clear that Santa Fe County really began preparing for this in early February. And I can point out to the fire department, in specific Martin Vigil, who is with our Office of Emergency Management, started getting us ready. And if you look at the implementation of Santa Fe County COVID 2019 Action Plan, I'm going to go over some of the early steps that we took to prepare Santa Fe County. On February 4th, the Santa Fe County Fire Department provided DOH with an inventory of what's called PP&E, so personal protective equipment, and began ordering additional supplies in preparation for the COVID-19 outbreak. In addition, there were briefings and set of informations given to fire department staff. The Sheriff's Department and the RECC Public Safety Answering Point guidelines were distributed. An emergency medical dispatch card was implemented into the CAD. These were all early steps that Santa Fe County did to try to prepare, and I'm sure some of these steps sound familiar to you, because if you listen to the news, the issues relative to certainly personal equipment and that kind of early preparation have been discussed in Santa Fe County, in New Mexico, and across the country as we move to address this. I think it's also important to note that OEM staff met with County Corrections leadership and briefed County Corrections and the jail in preparation for this ahead of any announcement with regard to positive cases of COVID in New Mexico. And I'm saying that really because it was an early step in making sure that we were prepared at the jail. I know there's a lot of concern across the state of New Mexico and across the countries about jail. I think New Mexico and Santa Fe County can be commended for really thinking proactively and forward thinking about the safety of people that we have at the jail. I want to look at the timeline. On March 3rd, the county manager, Catherine Miller, called for the development of a task force. And that task force really, in addition to being chaired by myself and Martin Vigil from the Santa Fe County Fire Department, included about 17 of us. It's grown significantly in terms of people participating in the calls, but included all the county leadership, including the elected officials, as well as the department heads, many pertinent agency heads, such as HR, IT, legal department, in looking at how we were going to structure Santa Fe County's efforts. And the first thing that we did was talk about internal and external communications. So Thanks to Carmelina, we had a discussion at our first meeting in terms of what kind of materials we were going to use to educate Santa Fe County, to educate our citizens, trying to be as devoted as we could to what was coming out of the World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control in the state of New Mexico, and putting together a communication system in that Carmelina would, on a daily basis, push out some information to Santa Fe County staff, as well as external communication to try and educate the public on what we were doing and to provide them with information in terms of any orders that were taken, any closure of buildings, and any steps personally that they could take to protect themselves and their families. The first case that we had in the state of New Mexico was on March 11th, when the governor announced that a number of people, I believe 3 was the first announcement, had tested positive. It was included in that announcement that there was someone from Santa Fe County who had tested positive. At that point in time, we were well into our planning. And I think one of the crucial things that we did was that every department was given a template and asked to report on specific areas of their workflow. And that really was looking at a 3-phase system, which included phase 1, which was prevention, phase 2, which was the onset of community spread, and phase 3, that was exigent circumstances. And those department plans are included in the plan that was distributed to you this morning. As we started to do that, as I said, on March 11th, the first case was announced for Santa Fe County. 2 days later, Santa Fe County took action to do a number of things, but really to protect what is the vulnerable populations that we serve here. And so the action that was taken on the 13th, as the county manager discussed this morning, was closing the senior centers and changing our plans to deliver meals, not in a congregate setting, but in a home-delivered meal setting. The second thing that we did was discontinue visitation for residents at the Santa Fe County Jail. As I've stated previously, there were also increased environmental cleaning at the Santa Fe County Jail. There has been an increase in terms of the screenings and the medical screenings that are occurring there. And the third thing that we did on the 13th really was closing the owned or operated community centers at Santa Fe County. I think one of the most important things that we can look at was the development of a remote work policy. I'm calling it that. I know that the legal department had a different heading, but it really was to mobilize our county staff force to work in a remote work setting. And I think the important part of what we've been doing the past couple of weeks is, one, implementing our plan to protect the safety of the people that we serve and the community that we serve. And secondly, but equally important, putting into place a plan for the majority of our staff to work safely out of a remote location. I think, just to wrap up, that we are really in phase 2 of this. Was announced yesterday that there was a community spread case in Santa Fe County. The plan is something that will continue to evolve as this target moves along. And I think we, our county, are ready to evolve along with it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are all on to answer questions.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Is there any questions from the board? Okay,
Mr.
Commissioner,
Chair.
let me go to Commissioner Hanson first, and then I'll just move along as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Rachel, for everything. I'm sorry, my other line just wanted to go off. I appreciate the plan. I appreciate all the work that we have done. I feel like I want to recognize Commissioner Hamilton for mentioning this early on at one of our meetings in February. I think it is really important that we are moving forward in the way that we are and keeping everything closed and stay at home as much as possible and remote work. And I want to just thank everyone in IT for all the work they have done. And I want to also request if the action plan can be put up on the website so constituents can look at it and see what we are doing and understanding that we are trying to do everything that is within our area to take care of.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hanson. I'm going to go to Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Garcia, did you have questions or comments?
Oh, sorry. Try to do 10 things at once, but yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. Thank you for the plan. Also, so were you explaining that the jail has been cleaned up and they've gone through and wiped down the entire jail facility? And if so, when did that happen?
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Garcia, I believe that Director Cedillo is here to answer that question, but I want to assure you that early on, the jail implemented procedures to increase environmental cleaning in that area. If you look at specifically the jail plan, which is included within your COVID-19 action plan, it does detail some of the steps that were taken by the jail early on.
Thank you, because I hear a lot of stuff regarding the jail, hers, and then the truth, right? So just a little bit of concern regarding the jail. And also, every department you mentioned, thanks for every department being involved. We're also the elected officials, professors, clerks, treasurer, as well as the sheriff totally involved in all of this?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Garcia, absolutely. Representatives from all those agencies are on every task force call. We've had a call or a meeting every day since the task force began. They have been on every call, have participated in every plan, have worked very actively with my staff to ensure that things are in place for the plan.
Also, I talked with Manager Miller several days ago in regards to all the agencies. Once again, for the public record, or for everybody that's listening on the radio or via internet, can you explain who we have met with once again? Schools, hospitals, city, sheriff, etc. Can you please state that for the record once again?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, Martin is coming in next, and he has an extensive list of organizations that we've been coordinating with. But relative to our internal actions, we've coordinated with every single department director, every elected official, the unions, and then also with the city, the state, the school districts. So we've been in communication on a regular basis with New Mexico counties, you name it. We're in all the counties. I've been on calls with all the county managers, kind of discussing things that they've done, calls with NACO, what counties are doing nationally, with the hospitals, with the Department of Health. They've participated in some of our task force calls, some of the outside agencies giving information to the task force, as well as Department of Homeland Security and FEMA. We're on a call I was on yesterday. And like I said, when Martin does his presentation, he will expand on the list of entities we've been coordinating with.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Next, I'm going to go to Commissioner Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think there are, a number of questions that frankly are probably part of some of the upcoming presentations. So I might hold off on those because, like as everybody on the call and everybody listening in knows, there are going to be more difficulties as things get, if and when they get a little worse, which no doubt they will. And so at this point, I will just join my fellow commissioners in making a remark on how massive an effort everybody has put in and what an incredibly good job they have done. I think it should make the constituents in the county both proud and hopefully somewhat relieved to know that there's been a tremendous amount of expertise that the county had in-house and all the senior staff, and all has been brought to bear in the response to this emergency.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those comments, and thank you to all of my commissioners for those comments. Commissioner Moreno, did you have anything to add at this point? I know we're going to get quite a bit more information.
Yeah, I have a question. We have we made the National Guard in the whole package?
Mr. Chair, I think, Commissioner Moreno, I think maybe what I should do now is, and we're trying to limit the people in the room, so I think that maybe I should have Rachel leave the room and have Martin Vigil, our EOC manager, come in, our EOC Emergency Operations Manager come in, Director, and have him talk about more of the external organizations besides the ones that I've already mentioned that he coordinates with his team on a regular basis as we get, as we move towards any type of emergency operations that we need, where we would need to activate our center.
Okay, thank you. That's a great idea, Manager Miller. I think that a lot of the questions that the commissioners may have will be answered with the information that that will be provided by our Emergency Operations Director, Mr. Vigil. So welcome, Mr. Vigil. If you could go ahead and get into your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. So I just want to give you a very brief snapshot of our readiness posture. Currently, the County Emergency Operations Center is set up and all systems are operational. We did look at a modified staffing plan to maintain the social distancing. Those individuals were brought up to the EOC, and we did a brief on basically how we would conduct those operations following the National Incident Management System. We have actually been operational in our coordination center since the first week of March. Along with the County Manager's Office, the COVID Task Force, and that coordination center, we've been able to maintain communication links with all of our external partners, the Department of Health, Homeland Security, both hospitals, and that will continue until we hit some triggers in the event we actually have to then move into a much bigger operation in the EOC. One of those triggers would be if we started to experience a significant illness, maybe quarantine, the shelter or stay home orders that might involve child care on a longer term basis. Any of these that might start to affect absenteeism with regard to our critical services, the RECC, fire, law enforcement, and corrections, and senior services feeding, that would be one trigger that we would move into that next phase. If we were to see potential failures in our water and wastewater systems, the adult detention facility, if we started to see clusters of these cases. And last is we potentially are still facing other emergencies not related to this that we need to be ready for. just looking at the timeline of this particular event is going to push up into our wildland fire season, and we need to be ready for that as well. So we're ready for the next phase if that should ever happen. And again, a lot of people have been involved in the planning of this. My staff has really stepped up into taking on much more responsibilities, and I really appreciate that. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Commissioner Hansen. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. I have a question on the document that we have in front of us. Mr. Martin, where is your document that you're referring to under fire department? Or we have this 43-page document, and so I'm trying to follow along with when you're giving a talk. So can you help me there?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hansen, we did not put Martin's plan in the on the board docs because there are some confidential pieces of information in it. So I asked him just to generally brief you on that because we didn't have time to edit that confidential information out and put it in to the board packet.
Okay, thank you. That helps. Whoever is presenting, if they could tell us where they are on this 43-page document, it would be helpful for me to be able to follow along. I kind of want to follow up on what Commissioner Moreno asked about the National Guard. I believe that is a state that the state would need to call up the National Guard to participate in this, but I'm just wondering about the protocol for that.
So, Commissioner Hansen, this is Martin Vigil. The National Guard is essentially under the direction of the governor, and if any particular mission would require their assistance, we would go through a pretty formal request process for resources through the state EOC. That would go to the governor's office and then come back down through that system.
Thank you, Martin. Are there any other emergency, like an area besides our own fire department that we have if people are stuck at home, or we have constituents who have emergency? I'm assuming that all of our fire department and EMTs are still operating and providing service to people whenever possible and whenever needed.
That is correct. We are braced for ongoing cases on a daily basis, and so that will dictate, I think, a lot of what we are able to do on a day-to-day basis, and then now possibly into a surge scenario. And we do have a lot of partnerships that have been developed over the years, and we're all talking to one another, and we would definitely reach out to try and take care of any of those cases that might be high priority life safety in nature.
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I think one of the things that's hard to visualize via a conference call, or even if you were here in the building for a board meeting, is to understand that it might not always be the county. If we stood up the Emergency Operations Center. It's not necessarily the county who responds to all the needs of the community. There's actually a board that would list out all of the different particular life safety issues, and we might call upon a partner, for instance, the Food Depot or one of the nonprofits that's a partner that Martin has built these relationships with through our emergency management office and is in regular contact with, that we call upon to assist a particular community need. It may not necessarily be our fire department. That's the point at which we stand up the EOC, that those relationships and their efforts are coordinated through the EOC.
Thank you. Thank you, Manager Miller. Like Commissioner Garcia asked, can Martin talk about some of the partners he's working with or list some of them?
I most certainly can. So some of the longest partnerships have been with Christus St. Vincent's, the Food Depot, the Animal Humane Animal Shelter community. Our ham radio operators are one of the closest partnerships that we have, and they potentially could play a role in redundant communications if those start to be impacted. I think in one of the packets I have about 137 agencies across federal, state, local, tribal that we work with in various areas. One example is in the wildland fire community as a whole group of folks that come together throughout the year. Another maybe in animal care issues, and so it's a pretty vast community, and it involves a whole lot of folks, even including our big box stores that are coming online in recent years.
And Martin, also the tribal outreach, have the pueblos basically closed their pueblos, or what has been the communication with the 8 northern pueblos?
So we deal predominantly with the 4 pueblos in Santa Fe County. I actually presented to the tribal council and the governor of Tesuque a couple weeks ago, and they shared what their planning was, how we would coordinate things, and at that time they were getting ready to limit non-tribal members to their community. San Alfonso actually reached out to us right about the time this was breaking on just some general emergency management coordination. One thing that is unique with our emergency management program as well as our fire department is we provide direct services to the pueblos of Nambe, Pewaukee, Tesuque, and San Alfonso. So we deal with those communities very regularly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Next, I'm going to go to Commissioner Hamilton. Did you have any questions for Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I actually wanted to ask, I know that thinking ahead is one of the things that is an integral part of emergency planning that is embedded in the 3 stages you have in the plan that was that provided to everybody. But do you guys see as things develop in the short term, over the next couple of weeks, as things that might be a challenge to the county and the things that we might need to really think about additional resources for?
So I think clearly the daily encounters with rule-out patients that may be displaying signs and symptoms that might be related to COVID, I'm sure those encounters are going to increase with time. And, that's still, we still have the background of seasonal influenza. There's allergies that are just killing myself and other people. And it is going to be a little difficult to sort of separate those because the symptoms and the presentations are very identical. So I think that's going to be one challenge. Personal protective equipment is, we have enough, but as burn rates occur, more and more patients, we're going to have to really watch that. We already have access to and have received a small allotment from the Strategic National Stockpile, and we'll just continue various avenues to make sure that we have the personal protection equipment for our first line first responders.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hamilton. I think there's also, and this is stuff that we have worked through, and you can see it somewhat in the plans, but if we have employees in any particular segment of our employees that have have cases positive, test positive for COVID-19, all the steps that we have to take if that were to happen relative to that specific employee, and then any contacts that they've had, how we go about providing that information, notifying. We have plans for all of that. And then, if there were any one particular area of our services that was significantly impacted, for instance, the jail or any of our public safety areas, how we would call for backup to other organizations that are our standard backup for instance, for dispatch or for, in the case of, as you mentioned, whether there'd ever be a need to call requests from the state, assistance with the National Guard, assistance from our partnering counties and municipalities. Those are the type of things that we see as a potential next step.
Great, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Manager Miller. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton, for your question. I'm going to go to Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just a couple of items that's here. One of them is, can you explain to the general public, for those of us that have worked for the county for a while and used to practice EOC drills, and we used to actually do that, and a little disappointed we haven't done that in the past several years. So can you explain to the general public what an EOC is and how you envision that working?
So the EOC is the Emergency Operations Center. It's a physical location that is part of kind of some FEMA guidelines called multi-agency coordination systems. The other facility that I made reference to, our coordination center, is also a smaller version of that. And it's basically bringing physically key decision makers together to follow an existing management system and work problems that might arise in the community and align resource requests or needs to that problem. It typically is supporting an incident command post out in the field, but in this case that probably would not apply, much like a countywide snowstorm. We have had exercises, and we participate in many exercises in the state. At the local level, we've done numerous, with regard to, let's say, active shooter. We were in the process of working with the city on a large airport exercise. So the exercises have actually been occurring And our hope is to continue that, like you mentioned, in the EOC, and maybe even take county staff to some of the federal training opportunities that are out there once we're on the other end of this.
Thank you. This is the reason why I'm asking. You see this all over the news for Bernalillo County's doing the EOC. They're practicing. You see Santa Fe Community College doing EOC, and I don't see the county getting any media on that. But I'll leave it at that. As people may not know out there, Mr. Vigil is actually one of the nation's top informational person when it comes to different situations that happen throughout the community. And Mr. Vigil, I just wanted to make sure that we're all communicating, because you can't do this on your own, but I appreciate everything that you do for us. See, also what I have, one thing that, as Commissioner Hanson stated, 43-page document, very well put together. I skimmed through it. I'm sure you all are the experts in this, so I'll leave it up to you guys that it is a great document. One of the things is, I know everybody should be prepared for their seniors, but what if a senior doesn't have any family? Is there a number that they can call? And if there is a number they can call, can we please make sure that there is not answering machine on that where you have to press 1 for this, 2 for this, please? Just FYI on that. And that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. I'm going to go to Commissioner Moreno. Did you have any comments or questions for Mr. Vigil?
No, I think I'm satisfied that we're doing the most that we can do. I'd like to see what else that could be available from the governor's office.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Moreno. I think that's all that we had for questions. We appreciate the presentation, Martin. Manager Miller, is there any other presenters relative to this item 3B?
Mr. Chair, no, there's not.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here today, Mr. Vigil. We appreciate it, bringing us up to speed on where we're at with our emergency plans, and you've done a great job, so thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Can you identify who this is?
This
is Commissioner
is
Garcia.
Rudy.
Okay, Commissioner Garcia.
Just really quick, I don't know if somebody could answer this question. I certainly understand the HIPAA requirements and these people that are affected. Does the police department or the sheriff's department need to actually know? Once again, I understand the HIPAA requirements. Do they need to know where these individuals are, or how are they involved in this when it comes to the actual individuals that are quarantined or have the virus?
Mr. Chair, I believe the sheriff's on the line, and maybe he could comment, and then I can follow up.
Thank you. Sheriff Mendoza, are you there?
Sheriff Mendoza, are you on the line, or do we have anybody that is representing the sheriff's department?
This is Under Sheriff Johnson. The sheriff stepped out. We don't get that information specifically regarding the locations of the actual people that have tested positive, although at least a general location would help us and assist us when we're responding to specific areas in preparation.
Okay. Manager Miller?
Did I?
So, Mr. Chair, and commissioners, as a matter of fact, I'm actually supposed to be on a call with the governor's office right now, hoping to ask for that, make that request, is that we could get it, while we understand and we have had the Department of Health on our calls for our task force. This was a specific request we made of the Department of Health, but they actually were not they told us they could not provide that information, but one of my hopes out of the conference call today was to be able to ask, well, could we have at least the general area? You know, the county's close to 2,000 square miles, and it would be helpful when they report an incident in the county if we could at least get the general area. But at the moment, we have not been able to get the Department of Health to provide that information to us.
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy. That would just make sense. Like whenever our first responders actually go to somebody who has a mental challenge, and it would just be good for them to know. It just seems like it would make sense. But I'm sure Manager Miller will work with the Sheriff's Department and Public Safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. And Manager Miller just asked that you keep us informed as how that meeting goes today. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes, Commissioner Hamilton?
I just wanted to add, though, it's not a direct, full address of the question. For several weeks, I think Assistant Chief Feehill mentioned this, or actually maybe Manager Miller mentioned it pretty early on, that there's been information given to emergency dispatchers. So they ask questions when there are emergency calls about the nature of the call and whether there are any signs and symptoms from the people that have put in the call that responders will be responding to that relate to any suspicion of COVID-19, so that protocols can be implemented when responders go that limit contact and limit spread and whatnot to protect the responders. So there is that already established in the way we're responding to emergency calls.
Okay, thank you for that information. So the next item that we have is a budgetary outlook for the FY 2020 and 2021, and we'll have Ms. Jo Rowe and also Manager Miller that will present on this next item. Thank you again, Mr. Vigil. Hello, Ms. Rowe. Thank you for being here today.
Good morning, Chair Roybal, Commissioners. I'm Joey Rowe. I'm the Budget Administrator. I'm going to be speaking about the economic impact during public health emergency. The Finance Division was tasked to provide information on the economic implications of COVID-19 on county operations, along with suggestions for cost-saving measures for consideration. Prior to the impending financial crisis due to COVID-19, the county's revenues were up 5.7% as of February 2020 from fiscal year 2019. Beginning March 2020, the country and the county began taking significant actions to prevent the spread of the virus. Unfortunately, those actions affect county operational revenue generation and collection. Due to the mandated social distancing, self-isolation, and quarantine, everyday life of errands and socialization was halted, resulting in the reduction of foot traffic throughout businesses in the county. Life with COVID-19 went from an active public to now a shelter-in-place public focusing on essential tasks and limited purchases. The actions being taken are unprecedented as spending is being limited due to sheltering in place, which will have a financial impact for major revenues for the county. In fiscal year 2019, property and gross receipt taxes were 80% of the county resources. There is a chart on your board docs that provides estimates on the impact of COVID-19 and how that will have an effect on the county finances. Gross receipt tax will be impacted as the public is advised to stay at home except for purchasing necessities such as groceries and medicine. As COVID-19 continued to spread in other states, New Mexico Governor Lujan Grisham began advising New Mexicans to increase social distancing and limiting the number of individuals in public places. As the month of March 2020 proceeded, increased advisories continued to limit the number of people in public locations, impacting all industries with businesses closing and employees perhaps without a job. There is another illustration below that is a presentation of the impact to GRT for the remainder of fiscal year 2020 as compared to fiscal year 2019 and the impact to fiscal year 2021 projected revenue. Property tax is expected to be impacted as property owners may be unable to pay the second half payments due April 10th. With government and financial institutions mandating that tenants and homeowners will not be evicted or foreclosed upon under COVID-19, delinquency property tax receivables may increase. There is a chart below that indicates the impact if the second half property tax collections are at 50% from prior year, resulting in 15.8 or a $10.6 million reduction in property tax as of June 30th, 2020. In addition, with some businesses closing permanently, property values and taxable accounts will be reduced for tax year 2020 billings. If there is a 10% reduction in 2020 tax year net taxable value, the billed tax would be reduced by $19.1 million, which would result in $6 million less property tax revenue for the county during fiscal year 2020. There is another chart below in your document that details the possible impact to the county's total revenue for fiscal year 2020 and a projection of total revenue for fiscal year 2021. The revenue shortfalls will have to be supplemented with county reserves. As of June 30th, 2019, the county had $43.6 million in unassigned reserves available to supplement county essential spending. In addition, funding awarded to Santa Fe County during the 2020 New Mexico legislative session may be impacted as Governor Lujan Grisham plans to call for a special session and had yesterday to readdress the recently signed budget bills. The county's expenditures will also be impacted as a result of COVID-19. There is a chart that is a representation of the total cost for fiscal year 2020 if the county's spending is at the same rate as fiscal year 2019. The table does exclude additional travel costs as the county has already suspended non-essential travel. The budget savings for travel cost is estimated to be $718,000. If the projected revenue for fiscal year 2020 is $137 million, the county would have to use $39 million in reserves to cover the projected $175 million in expenditures, including capital activities. Those expenditures do not include additional overtime that could be expected for the public safety personnel. For example, any first responder who comes into contact with a potential COVID-19 positive citizen will have to be subjected to quarantine for an undetermined length of time. Protocols regarding such an unfortunate event are being reviewed with public safety to determine how these may affect our expenditures. This could cause overtime for other first responders who will be needed to backfill those positions. An estimated overtime through June 30th, 2020 is in the chart below. As the county moves to have employees work from home to help facilitate social distancing and prevent the spread of the virus, the county will experience natural cost savings and operational non-mission critical variable costs, such as utilities, office supplies, repairs and maintenance. The county's fixed costs, such as most salaries, equipment leases, insurance, debt service payments, will stay constant and add to the strain on the county's revenue and reserves. Considerations to fiscal year 2021 budget are as follows. Insurance costs are expected to continue to increase. Based on medical claims as of February 2020, medical claims are $1.1 million more than at the same time in the prior fiscal year. The county self-insurance fund budget will need to have an additional $1.5 million included for medical claims. Also, the use of reserves needs to be carefully considered for potential impact to bond ratings and keep statutorily required reserves healthy. The Finance Department has come up with some proposed cost-saving measures. Santa Fe County needs to define what is considered core government services to help determine what cost savings measures will help alleviate some of the burden COVID-19 will have on the county's finances. The following is a list of proposed actions to reduce costs in fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021. I will highlight some of the greater lines. If we placed a hiring freeze on non-essential or non-mission critical vacant positions, i.e. Not placing a hiring freeze on public safety employees, such as corrections, fire, emergency management, EMS. If we did that, we currently have 85 vacant positions. That would result in a cost avoidance in the current year of $1.3 million for the remainder of the year. And if we had a hiring freeze for all 12 months in fiscal year 2021, that would save the county $5.3 million. The cost of living adjustment in the current fiscal year cost $270,000, and therefore, if we did not provide an additional cost of living adjustment in fiscal year 2021, that is the amount that we would avoid expending in next year. That's $270,394. If we do not approve any new positions for next year, that would save us $970,000. Non-essential travel, we could eliminate non-essential travel for fiscal year 2021 and reduce next year's budget by $1.2 million. A purchasing freeze on non-essential fixed assets based on the current fixed asset request. Next year, that could save a potential $4.4 million. Closing the juvenile detention center would save an estimated $1 million in fiscal year 2020 and an estimated $1.5 million in fiscal year 2021, with the understanding there will still be some costs for juvenile detention. We could review and close open purchase orders for non-essential costs. Currently, in reviewing the open purchase orders that are in the system, we have $40 million right now of outstanding purchase orders. And if we were able to just close 10% of those that are no longer necessary, we could save $4 million in the current fiscal year. If we take 10% from department budget requests from employee dues, maintenance, supplies, and other operating costs, in the current year, we could save $2 million. As well, in the next year's budget in 2021, we could also save $2 million. So with all that being said, the total potential cost savings in the current fiscal year, we would be able to identify almost $8.6 million in cost savings. And in next year, we could shave up to $16 million off the current budget request. So in conclusion, COVID-19 already is impacting government and business revenues with the sheltering in place. What is unknown is the length of time and the severity of the impact. The county needs to take action now by having a plan in place to define core services and spending needs to provide essential services with the least amount of impact to county reserves. The plan should also address how the county can stimulate the economy with funded capital projects. If revenues decrease for a longer period of time whereby cost-saving measures and using available reserves will no longer provide for a balanced budget, those services which are not mandated by law should be reviewed. And I stand for questions.
Mr. Chair?
Manager Miller?
Mr. Chair, I asked Yvonne and Joey to put this memo together just to give you an understanding of what's coming. Many of these actions are going to be unavoidable when you have entire industries shut down. That means there's no revenue coming in, not just to them, but also to the county. We obviously won't feel it for a couple of months because gross receipts taxes are collected 2 months. They're accrued 2 months in advance. So in other words, we're currently, the distributions that we would receive for the month of March were collected in January and then distributed by the state to us in March. So it essentially means we will see in our May and June distributions the effect of businesses being shut down in March and April. Additionally, if they continue to stay shut down through May, June, or however long, it's likely many of them won't come back. And so the economic return to normal will be much longer. So I just wanted the board to understand that our budget sessions coming up are not going to look like they were a month ago. Instead of adding programs, we will be looking at how we take things out of the budget that have been there for the last couple of years anyway, things that we have grown, things that we've been trying to do to expand services. We're going to be looking at identifying those critical essential services and continuing to fund those, and looking at what we can do without. Additionally, some of the things that we've been asked and I've been contacted about are extending the time for lodgers tax payments. That's one of the things that, because our lodging facilities are closed down, that is one of the things that we can do at a local level. And the ordinance that we spoke of in the emergency declaration resolution earlier, the ordinance that we'd be bringing back to you next Tuesday would allow for, because currently our ordinance does not allow for me to extend that or for the board to do it without action of adopting another ordinance. So that's one that we've been requested. Additionally, not shutting off utilities, which we're not doing at the moment, but making that more of a formal action. And we've been asked about delaying property tax payments. That is not something that the county can authorize. That is only authorized and directed by the state property tax division director. All indications are they are not planning on doing that right now, because it actually shifts everything for the entire valuation and budget cycle. And I think that they don't feel for the second half of last year's payments that would be an appropriate measure to take at this time. That does not mean that that they wouldn't, but as it stands right now, the property taxes are due starting, I believe it's April 10th through final payment date of May 10th. Also, we've had requests about delaying gross receipts tax collections. That also is not something that the county can do. That's something only can be done at a state level. And many of the taxes that are in place, if they are put in place by law, the state has to look at every individual law to determine whether or not the agency that may be impose that tax, or whether it's all predominantly state tax and rev department, has authority to make any extensions or waivers of penalty and interest. Every law is different. So every tax that's put in place has different provisions in the law as to who has authorization and up to what level. As you know, the state has extended the timeline for personal income tax and corporate income tax filing. We are not recipients of those taxes. Those taxes go directly to the state, and we do not get a distribution off of those. But I just wanted to make sure that you were all aware of what we are looking at, what things we do have control over at the county level, and that we are looking at every single one of them, and we'll be bringing recommendations back to you relative to how we can assist the community members and businesses on anything that we can delay or waive penalty and interest on, and then looking at how we can also reduce our costs so that with a reduced revenue stream, how we can operate all of our critical functions for as long as possible.
Great, thank you for that update, Manager Miller. Go ahead. Okay. I just wanted to see if there was any questions from the board at this time. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hansen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, Joey, thank you so much, and Catherine, so much for this overview of what we're facing. I really am grateful. And I just look forward to what you have to say at our next meeting next week. Not that I expect it to be any better news, but I think that we are being realistic in our approach, and I appreciate the direct truth of what we're facing. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to thank you for this. It's a very good first cut analysis, and I really feel like the more proactive we can be in anticipating what are going to be substantial economic impacts globally and in the country, so clearly in our county, the healthier we'll stay. And so Manager Miller, you already mentioned that our budget study sessions aren't going to look quite the same, but I wanted to say that that's clearly the place for us to be able to give a real critical review of these suggestions and think of other ones and then discuss them through that budget study process so we can implement things as needed. I imagine that's what you guys intended. I think that's a really important thing for us to work together on, because there are going to be impacts from this that we will want to weather in as stable a condition as we possibly can. So, thank you for this effort. I think this is going to be a real challenge for us.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Moreno, are you on the line, sir?
Yes, sir. I am.
Do you have comments or questions?
Yes, I do have a question. How will we be in session? Where and when will we be the next BCC?
Mr. Chair, the next meeting is actually scheduled for March 31st. It's our regular BCC meeting, and it's preceded by the housing meeting at 1 o'clock. It will be remote, but we will have a different platform rather than just a conference call. We will have a web-based platform where we hopefully will be able to have video feed at the same time. All of your laptops that we do board docs with are outfitted with cameras. So we're going to work to make that a little more face-to-face interactive, even though it's through a video feeds. Additionally, we have budget study sessions planned next month before each of the BCC meetings. And we will be sending out information as to how we will conduct those. Hopefully, we will be able to do those with adequate information in front of you, but through remote access as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Moreno. Commissioner Garcia?
Thank you. Where do I start? First of all, I'd just like to ditto what the other commissioners said. Thank you for the information. Just a couple of comments and just a few questions, and maybe you can get with me. Manager Miller, is one of the questions of the GRT of $64 million. Is that county GRT or is that actually city and county GRT? Just a question I have.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, that is what the county receives in GRT. But remember, we have multiple multiple types of GRT, so they're directed. That's not general fund GRT. For instance, one of those is just a straight pass through to the NCRTD. I believe that one's probably about $5 million that just literally hits our bank account and goes straight over to NCRTD. Then we have a quarter cent that's close to probably $10 million a year that's to capital outlay GRT. That cannot be used for operations. We have the quarter cent fire excise tax, which can also not be used for personnel and salaries, and that's probably about $1.4 million. So when you look at that total number, that is all of our gross receipts tax combined, but I just want to remind all the board members that there are multiple increments in there, and they are dedicated to different sources, and some, for instance, about 3.4 million comes in, goes right back to the state for medical care. So don't let the total number be deceiving that we have, that is just all straight to us. It would directly impact other entities outside of us, like the NCRTD and state health.
Thank you, Manager Miller. Just really quick, also for the record, thank you, Santa Fe County, for having an excellent manager in the financial world, because you get it and you're up to date on it. Thank you. I understand this is unprecedented. I get it. It's a huge moving target. Some of the other some of the other things I'd like to mention is, has the tax assessor seen this? Have we run this with the tax assessor? Hopefully so. And I'm sure we've checked in regards with the banks, lending institution, bonding institutions. I know it's a moving target. You know, it's globally, as Commissioner Hamilton said. And then also the resolution that we just passed earlier, does this allow the county manager to make all of these decisions on her own? And if so, I would just like to know, I would like to be updated as into what you're doing and when you're doing it, if possible. Also, this is another question I have. If the county has the money to cover a lot of the stuff we're going through, I guess why so many cuts if we have the money to cover stuff that as into moving forward? Those are some of just the items I have. I'd just like to be updated as to what we're doing or what Manager Miller is doing. But once again, thank you for a great job, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Manager Miller?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, I can answer quite a few of those. First of all, I have talked to the assessor. We had quite a long conversation about current notice of value goes out, as you know, on April 1st. Those will go out because the assessor had completed all of the reappraisals and assessments necessary for the tax year. So remember, we do property taxes in arrears. So this is based on tax year or calendar year 2019. So the values that are going out now are what the value of properties were in 2019 by December 31st of 2019. That notice of value goes out April 1st. That process will go forward. The assessor is equipped to do all protests via email and chat and telephonically. So he is set up to do that, and we'll move forward with that. The treasurer is responsible for collecting second half of last year. Those tax bills, a lot of people get their tax bill in November of last year with two sheets for second half. This is the second half that we'd be collecting this year. That is due, I believe it's May 10th, unless that falls on a weekend. It's May 10th statutorily. That is still also scheduled to be, to stay at that date and time. As I said, the treasurer had inquired about an extension of that. To my knowledge, State Property Tax Division Director is the only one who can extend that, and they are not extending it at this time. So we anticipate still receiving property taxes either through our Dropbox by mail or can be paid online with a credit card. At this time, penalty and interest will be charged to individuals who are late. There's nothing that we can do to change that. But we do anticipate there will be people who are just not able to pay their taxes. And we have a pretty high collection rate in Santa Fe County. I believe in our first year we collect 95 to 97% of property taxes. And by year 4, I think we're at over 99%. I would estimate we will see a drop in that this year, and depending on how long it takes for the economy to recover, that could extend out into future years. Relative to decisions that I would make, most of the decisions that we're making would be on the reduction of expenditure side, and I'm proud to say we have not had to do anything relative to reducing staff and or any kind of cuts to pay. Everybody is being paid, even if they're working from home. We have over 140 employees, I believe, with remote work schedules, and then we also have over 100 with modified work schedules, and that's out of 800 and I think about 865 current employees, while we have over 1,000 approved FTEs. Not all of those are filled right now. We have about 865 current employees, with almost 500 of those in public safety, and those schedules are not being modified other than by how their individual elected officials or department directors or managers are having to modify their schedules in order to stay staffed for dealing with our first responder requirements. So that leaves about 365 employees that could have modified schedules and remote work, which I'd say about over 250 of those have. The ones who do not are those who have remained at their offices but have been spaced out into private offices and are not interacting with each other socially or with the public very much. So when it comes to any of those other decisions, those kind of decisions to do any kind of major cuts to the budget, those would come to the board. And that's what I was providing that information and asking Finance, Yvonne and Joey, to provide that information to give you a precursor of what you will be seeing when we go through our budget study sessions, because I would not make those, nor do I believe that resolution earlier today gives me authority to make broad sweeping budget changes.
Thank you, Manager Miller. I understand this is a global moving target, but I guess there's some of the industry out there, for example, the restaurant industry, some of those individuals that can't pay their bills. We just need to, I know it's a moving target, and how do we help individuals that cannot pay their taxes? I don't know, but I'm sure you guys are looking into it, and I appreciate that. And I think that's all I have for now. Thank you for your help, and I guess hopefully there's breaking news that the president, hopefully he's right, says everybody will be back to work by Easter. That's just breaking news that just came out on the television, but like I said, hopefully he's right. And thank you for all the information from staff. Catherine, thank you, your commissioners, and thank you for the employees and the general public for bearing with us during these tough times. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Okay, so next we're going to go on to item number 3D, and this is a discussion of potential options to address economic impacts to the community of the COVID-19 emergency. And I think that we covered all of those already in this last discussion, but there wasn't anything additional, Manager Miller?
Mr. Chair, I really didn't have anything additional to that. I do want to acknowledge all those employees who are working from home or remotely, or those employees who are using any of their personal resources to help us get through this. In other words, their personal cell phones, their personal internet. I will say we do not have people using their personal computers to do county work. We wanted to make sure that all of the computers had cyber security software installed on them. So they have either taken home a laptop that IT equipped with appropriate software and security, or they have taken home a desktop and are able to VPN into our system with all the proper security measures in place. So, but it does mean they were using some of their own personal home space, their personal cell phones, possibly personal home phones, and internet in order to work from home. And I want to thank them for their willingness to do so and working with us in order to respond to this crisis.
Thank you, Manager Miller. I really appreciate that update and the recognition of our staff. We've all worked very diligently. So right now we're on concluding business. I don't have any other concluding business, and I believe that was probably concluding business from Manager Miller. Is there any other commissioners that had any concluding business, or our other elected official, Ms. Salazar, or Treasurer Salazar, or Clerk Salazar, sorry.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Hanson.
Commissioner Hanson.
I want to thank staff and everybody for all the information. I also want to recognize that pulling this special meeting together in such short notice and creating a way for us to all communicate, I am grateful. I'm also really grateful to hear that we will have a slightly different setup at our next regular meeting, but I hope that the public will please be patient with us and understand that this is really unprecedented times, and that setting up this kind of a network for all of us to communicate was not our first. We have done this in a very proficient and quick manner, but it might not be perfect for this first meeting, and we will continue to improve our access. And I want to thank Manager Miller and the IT staff for all of the work that they have done to make this possible for us to be connected and to do business to protect our citizens and constituents in Santa Fe County. So my heartfelt thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Any other commissioners? Commissioner, I'm going to go to commissioner by commissioner, each commissioner. Commissioner Hamilton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I don't have any substantial concluding business other than to mention we really do have additional decisions to make, and so the upcoming meetings and the upcoming budget study meetings are going to be really important in terms of our being able to continue with the greatest protections for everybody. And yes, just want to echo Commissioner Hanson in thanking everybody for the incredible level of effort they've put out so far, and the good information that we have that we can now digest and work on in the next week or two. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Moreno, did you have any concluding business or final comments?
Just to say thank you, Catherine, and your staff making this this meeting a worthwhile and important business. And I hope everybody listening, we're working diligently as we always do in Santa Fe County, and we'll make it through and carry on.
Thank you, Commissioner Moreno. Commissioner Garcia, did you have any concluding business or final comments?
Just ditto what the previous commissioner said, and for the community out there, please just hang in there and be safe and take care. And with that, if there's no other comments, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
Okay, so we have a motion for adjournment. Do I hear a second?
I think Commissioner Hamilton, did you second that?
Yes,
So we have Commissioner Garcia has made a motion to adjourn, and Commissioner Hamilton has seconded. All those in favor signify by saying bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.